which you saw in the keynote yesterday, of how they're thinking about leveraging that part of the platform. So whether it's embedding, chat right in your app, whether it's using your BBM profile to kind of help virally spread proliferation of your app, whether it's using the BBM infrastructure to send data between users of your app. We're providing a whole host of capabilities, and we're doing it in a way it's probably not that apparent when you see the apps because it's so well seamlessly integrated, but doing it in a way that makes it very easy for developers to leverage this capability. So when you see the chat window appearing, bubbling up inside the app, that's actually being provided by the platform. It's a very simple API that allows you to kind of embed that there. When you see the contact list come up and you select a contact to engage in a chat or to engage in sharing between two instances of your app, that's again all provided by the platform. So a very simple API to be able to use it. But I think probably best for some of these guys to talk about their experience actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Pete, why don't you start from the Foursquare side since we saw you in the keynote yesterday?
Well, on the topic of actually doing development and building some tools around the BBM API, at first the biggest question is how long is this going to take? And for us to pretty much roll out everything that you saw took us only a couple days, and then, on and off a little bit of time to maybe 2 weeks to polish it. But, really it was far less than, what you would expect, where, you have to figure out what your roadmap is, when you're going to have time for it and everything. And then also the other thing is that Foursquare, it's about sharing your location, and we really respect privacy, and BBM really seems to understand that, but also it allowed us to, Foursquare got popular through publishing your location via, Twitter or Facebook or on whatever social graph that was important to you. And we saw that we would get a lot of new users by seeing those tweets or seeing those Facebook posts. But we also know that as your social graph gets tighter, and a perfect example of this is BBM, it's a really valuable social graph. The likelihood that a new user would sign on to Foursquare and be able to gain that new user, be able to communicate really valuable information was huge from our perspective, and so it was a big win for us.
Yeah, just to highlight that viral distribution of the apps, and we showed it a little bit in the keynote yesterday, where if you actually clicked on the Foursquare custom profile box that's out there, it would launch the app because we had it installed, but if it wasn't, it would actually take you to App World and install the app. So from a developer perspective, I think viral distribution of the apps is one of the most exciting parts.
Yeah,
I think it goes to who exactly is in the typical user's social graph in BBM. I mean, it's your closest colleagues, your family, your friends. I mean, the chances that you are going to respond to or follow a recommendation coming from somebody in your BBM contacts is very high.
Right. Absolutely. Now, Andy, maybe just speak about some of your thoughts in terms of the BBM integration you did with Wikitude and the Cam View and kind of the excitement there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, from a developer's point of view, to tap into 40 million users who are very familiar, obviously, with the BlackBerry Messenger platform is very exciting. And then to take that large user base and put it into augmented reality is becoming even more exciting, because for the very first time, we're really taking such a large community into the AR space, and taking advantage of this already existing social environment. And I think we saw from the reactions yesterday during the keynote speech that people are excited about that feature, and we're really looking forward to launching it, because I think it's just a perfect match between BlackBerry Messenger and doing that in augmented reality. Is a fantastic use case.
Awesome. Any questions on BBM social platform? Any kind of clarification you guys need? Any insights you want to get? Go ahead.
When are we going to see a PC client of the BBM?
So I'll try that one. Right now, we not only don't have a PC client, but we also don't have a tablet one. And I think that we're looking at what does that mean? Pete actually mentioned it yesterday. What does Foursquare even mean on a tablet? Part of the value of BBM is the fact that it's something that you carry with you all the time. One of my favorite stats I learned last week is that the average adult worldwide will notice that their cell phone or smartphone is not on them within 4 minutes. of forgetting it, and they can go 6 to 7 hours without noticing that their keys are missing. And so the fact that you have your smartphone on you all the time is a huge aspect of what the value that BBM brings, because you know that you can reach somebody. Having it at a PC or a tablet changes that experience in that maybe it's a multi-login situation, and maybe there's different things that you can do. So there's a lot of thinking as to what those look like.
Sorry, following your argumentation, what for did you do the playbook? Nobody who uses the BlackBerry as a business platform needs playbook.
Sorry.
Yeah, you say it has to be on the phone. Everybody has a phone with himself. It takes the BlackBerry with himself.
Right.
So that's the first device everybody thinks about.
Right.
So what for is a playbook? And you have the bridge system.
Yeah.
So it's possible to bridge the messenger.
Yes.
From the BlackBerry to
right.
the playbook.
To the playbook.
So
Correct.
it should be pretty easy to write something like a bridge tool for the PC, so you can use it on a PC. You can still chain it, the messenger, to a device. That wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
But people who do really write pretty much with it, for them it's maybe not really as convenient to use the BlackBerry keyboard.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit more complex when you start looking at moving to the PC world, because then you have to support Mac, you have to support a variety of different operating systems at various different levels, different Bluetooth stacks, whereas Playbook makes it a fair bit easier that way, and that there's one, and it's a fair bit easier. But yes, I mean, your point is true that you could use Bridge to do that. The other side is that we haven't had a lot of pushback. We've had some people asking for a PC client, but for a lot of people, they were fine to pick up the device. And so, there's a lot more thinking going into, well, what kind of extra value add can we do by putting it on the PC instead of just essentially an extension of the existing interface?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is we're still making sure that we have the experience right on the playbook, and through that experience and based on demand, we can probably make an assertion as to what we do with this.
Right. So, Roland was next. Sorry, I'll get to that.
Beyond just, so far we've seen sharing achievements or status, and another one was chatting between users. We've heard a little bit about file integration and sending. Is there anything else that it's going to be extended to? Maybe some sort of central location where you could see, let's see all the people are talking about Foursquare locations, or some sort of
so the
centralized, like bring it all together.
Yeah, the apps themselves can do can do that if they want, right? So, in the case of Wikitude, right? So you're actually sharing location for all the people who are in your BBM contact list. You can actually then scan around and see what's going on. But all of those kind of aspects of it are really extensions to existing concepts and then adding BBM. But the other side of the equation that we're really excited about are applications that are actually being built exclusively because BBM exists. And Alex, not to put you on the spot, but Alex McCallum on our business development team. Alex has actually been working with a couple different vendors whose applications exist only because of BBM. Do you want to maybe just tell people a little bit about those?
Yeah, we look at applications like that as almost, we call it almost BBM extendables. So the application would not be something that you would be able to have any functionality in the App Store itself. You have to be in BBM and working with it. So some of the ones we've seen are finding BBM users that are all like-minded. So I'm interested in.
That's what I was thinking. Chat rooms would be
finding. I've landed in the city, finding someone that's interested in running because I want to go for a run today. So someone in this hotel that would like to do a running group, set up a chat, talk about it, set up a time, go and do that. Keep connected with them. So those are a few of those applications that are coming out that are very BBM specific, and we call them almost BBM extendables. So it revolves around BBM itself, not BBM being integrated into an application. It's about BBM, the experience that you get from that.
But that's the thing. Like right now, you have you can create a group, and the group is more or less people that you know. So the people in your social graph. It doesn't have the concept so like based on your location, based on what you like, based on what you're interested, or even start your own conversations. So like I'm in this location and looking for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's some serious value there.
Jingu Apps is one of them.
Jingu?
Jingu.
Any idea how to spell that?
J-I-N-G.
Sorry, you had a question in the back?
Yeah. You said how important BlackBerry Messenger was for smartphones, but wouldn't it make sense if somebody picks up an Android or iOS device and be able to send text messages via BBM?
So at this point, we believe that because the way the BBM is architected, we have our own infrastructure. So to extend BBM to other platforms would be quite an undertaking. We have to actually move a lot of our infrastructure and stacks and so on over those devices. And today, BBM is a very clear differentiator for us. It's something that sets our product apart, both in terms of end user experience as well as in terms of the new social platform that's coming. So we have no intent at this point to move that to other platforms.
And I just actually had kind of a comment about moving BBM to the PC, because chances are whenever you're next to the PC, most likely your smartphone is sitting right there next to you. And, well, from a personal use, I never use chatting apps on a PC, but where I'm on the go, that's my main form of communication now. So
Right.
I don't see it as something that a lot of people use, just mainly probably a few people.
All right, any other questions on BBM?
Anything being done in the enterprise space for?
Yeah, there's lots being done in the enterprise. Actually, there's a wicked demo by a company called Indians, where they've got a setup where they'll actually demonstrate how you can do SAP integration with BBM inside the enterprise. So they can do that for approvals. They can do that for a variety of different kind of levels within SAP. They're in the essentially, if you walk in, they're in the front left-hand corner, right near the developer lounge. They're based out of so nice international. Okay, so on that, we'll move maybe to the web and WebWorks. So we've put a huge amount of innovation into the latest version of the BlackBerry 7 OS in terms of the browser, and maybe I'll get Chris to kick off there, and then we'll throw to the panel, talk a little bit about their experiences building on WebWorks, and go from there. Chris, you want to?
Sure. So I don't know if everyone's had a chance to see or experience the new BB7 device, the 9900 that we announced. But we have basically, in addition to the hardware advancements that we provided, which the browser and the WebKit rendering engine obviously will take full advantage of, we have done a lot to completely re-architect the graphics pipeline to make it perform even better than it was performing previously in this work. So where we basically made the threads that run the UI and the threads that do the networking and the JavaScript execution completely separate, so you get really liquid scrolling and pan and zoom as you move around and manipulate the page. We have introduced a JIT for the JavaScript engine, and we've now baked the JavaScript engine right in on top of the core FPU and taking advancement of all the CPU enhancements. So we're actually seeing some Spider performance better than anybody else in the market right now on the BB7 platform, and I mean this is just serving to further kind of accentuate how committed we are to leading in the web space, both in terms of the browser, but also in taking that engine and allowing developers to leverage that engine fully outside of the browser. And this is really what our WebWorks platform is all about. So when you look at how we're driving this and providing a proper security model outside the browser, so you can still use HTML, HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, the same technology and the same frameworks that you're familiar with for building web content, and take that outside the browser, and now you have open access to everything that's available on the device, whether it's services like the BBM social platform or the advertising service or payment, or whether it's deep integration into the core applications on the device. I mean, it's all there at your fingertips working in web technology. And now backed by this engine that is just extremely performant. So the kind of barriers that have been kind of thrust up in the past around what you can or should do in web technology versus native technology, and native being Java or another native language on the platform, are starting to really come down. And depending on your application, your background, the skills that you have, we're seeing more and more developers be attracted to that side of the platform, particularly if they're interested in cross-platform and leveraging assets that they've built up either in for web development on the PC or on other mobile platforms. WebWorks gives them an opportunity to leverage all of those skills and that experience and that code base and build a complete app on BlackBerry.
Awesome. I mean, Andrew, your company does pretty much exclusively WebWorks development for the BlackBerry anyway.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your experiences?
We like WebWorks. It's a best of both worlds solution for us, in that we can write an application for our customers in HTML5, JavaScript, and have that run on the Playbook and the BlackBerry smartphone, and also on other mobile operating systems. So that resonates really well with a lot of our customers who are pretty terrified of the idea of lots of different source bases, lots of different bugs in each one, having the business logic in one piece of code that we can then wrap up differently on each device. Makes a lot of sense. But unlike designing for the web, we're not stuck in that sandbox. We can kick right outside and get access to a lot of the native device features. So we've got that core business logic, which we think is very portable, which probably makes up 80-85% of the app. But the other 15% is kind of fairly deep integration into the device. So that's what I mean by having kind of the best of both worlds as a consulting company.
And one of the interesting things that we found out, I actually didn't even know this until the panel yesterday that we ran, is that Marlon here from Polar, they've actually done all their development on BlackBerry smartphones in Java, built a platform there, and then when they moved to Playbook, they selected WebWorks instead. And so you've actually got a really good visibility into kind of the distinctions between the platform. Maybe you want to talk to your experiences, Marlon?
Absolutely, and actually have that quick demo that we ran for the Playbook. You recognize that Polar was started in 2007. We started building applications back in the trackball days. And our customers are real big content brands, CNN Money, Business Week, Times, CBS Sports. These guys are very, very strict about what sort of content experience they expect and user experience and how their brand is represented. For us, that meant a lot of homework. It meant building an entire framework internal to our business that we could use to build these applications for smartphones. So when it came time for Playbook, it was important for us to be able to take that same sort of experience to Playbook and not trade anything. And then, by the way, it's got a great browser, so you also have to have it jump up against what the user will naturally be able to do through a browser. So in making that decision and in starting the prototype with WebWorks, our team was really happy with how flexible it was in allowing us to build really great, rich news experiences, business experiences, sports experiences. I'd love for you guys to play around with this because not only was it easy, but it created this sort of native experience that folks come to expect from our company, building native applications for smartphones. And yet we're able to do this with the same framework that WebWorks now for the tablet space. And to echo Andrew's point, this allows us to scale out to a number of different form factors, whether you got different sizes of devices and also different other end destinations that are going to rely on this bundle of technology.
That's great.
That's been great.
If you weren't going to ask a question, I was actually going to mock you a little bit. So why don't you start?
I have to ask you about WebWorks. In the sense that I've seen the app so far, WebWorks app seems to do really very, very well natively in the browser if it's a self-contained application. But it seems like almost you're giving up quite a bit to be a WebWorks developer. The native integration, there are some of the APIs, and they're bringing more of them, but it's things like advertising APIs, BBM integration isn't there yet. What I'm saying, is it going to come to the point where they're actually tracking each other?
Yeah, it's actually it's getting a lot closer. Some of the services are difficult because they were started so far away, and so
that's what I'm saying. The Playbook's an opportunity now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're absolutely right. Yes.
Especially much
BBM is probably a really good example of how we expect it to work, especially going forward. So the Java beta has probably been out for about 3 or 4 weeks. We expect the WebWorks beta to come out within the next couple of weeks, definitively before launch of the product. So and that's because the WebWorks APIs actually sit on top of the existing Java ones. So we have to wait for those to be built, and then we build the WebWorks ones on top. But to give ourselves enough ramp time in the beta process to make sure that the WebWorks developers get it in enough time to build in as well.
Have they seen any difference in the BlackBerry 7 experience, like speed-wise, or any sort of improvements that make the apps more robust?
We're very hopeful it's going to be really good for having experienced it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly doing our own internal testing, and we've seen significant improvement in raw performance. So depending on what you're doing,
with startup time and all.
Absolutely, yeah. Startup, script execution, general, movement and rendering. It's all been.
How many developers are using the platform?
I don't know if we talk about the numbers. Mike probably knows better than I do, but I can say that there are a large number of WebWorks applications for Playbook in the Apple catalog.
Yeah, I wouldn't give a concrete number, but I can say that's probably about. Well, I guess it would be a concrete number. So it's probably about a third of the applications that are in the store today for Playbook are built in WebWorks, and about 2/3 are built in here.
Are companies using it to replace MDS as an easy way to develop internal apps?
Oh, MDS was end of life probably about 2 years ago, so we've definitely seen the move. The only inhibitor that we've seen to some extent in the enterprise is that they continue to have a lot of legacy devices that are pre-5.0, and so 5.0 is the starting point for WebWorks. And so we've seen a huge amount of traction probably in the last 6 months as companies start to go, okay, well, we're going to do the upgrade, we're going to continue to invest, and we'll look at some of the newer devices, and then that brings the opportunity to use WebWorks as well. From an enterprise developer perspective, they definitively want to use WebWorks more than anything else because they're more likely to have web developers inside an enterprise than any other skill set today.
And they have the assets built up in terms of their own intranet, so it's kind of an easy evolution to take those assets and those skills and to go into.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions on WebWorks? I knew Ronan was going to ask because he's actually done WebWorks development. Okay, so next I want to talk a little bit about super apps. So we obviously have done quite a bit with super apps. Maybe it's not obvious. Maybe I'll do a recap. So February of 2010, we announced the concept of super apps. And when we did that, it was very focused on it at a technical level. It was this almost kind of a design pattern for developers to say, these are things that you should be thinking about when you build your app. And it was really an evolution of this concept of what we had internally at RIM had always called this BlackBerry experience, this integrated, very kind of clean way to manipulate and move through applications and experiences on the device. So we announced that in kind of 6 overriding principles that we wanted our developers to focus on. What I didn't see coming and what was particularly exciting is that by WEDS last year, so about a May timeframe, we had already actually started to see a lot of the developers who had originally been doing what we would have called a super app starting to actually advertise that they were doing super apps and using that as a way to try and talk to their customers about what made their application different. So it was almost like they were, Peter can probably underscore this, they were looking for a way to tell their customers about what things set their apps apart and why it was exciting and different and why you should use their application. So from there, we then launched a Super App Developer Challenge. We had the opportunity to actually go around the world and globally recognize people who were building compelling super apps on the BlackBerry platform. And then all of that kind of culminated into the winners and an exciting kind of advertising campaign that was run in North America, both iconic print and TV advertising in the kind of January, February timeframe. Where we are now in my kind of Zen-like journey through what super apps means to RIM is that we're really kind of evolving super apps to talk about how it can redefine this intimate customer relationship between how people use your applications and Peter probably and I guess both the Pete's and even Marlon can speak to several elements of that. So maybe Peter Wary, I'll throw it over to you maybe to start in terms of what that seems to have an impact on your company and how you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah, we think about it basically in 3 ways. We try to think about it from the user experience perspective first and foremost, because ultimately that's going to be the driving force behind your success and increase in business. Then we look at it from a marketing perspective, and interestingly enough, to Mike's point, we never actually viewed the super app concept the way RIM did from the get-go. We always viewed it as like more of like a marketing opportunity, but I'll get into the technical side of it because there's 2 sides to that coin. So it's user experience, marketing, and technical. So from a user experience side, what this is all about is breaking down the invisible wall between a user's experience with the device, going through their email and their phone and using the device functionality that comes out of the box and the apps. So there's lots of different platforms out there where you have to go and sift through like a huge list of app icons to find one that specifically does some functionality that you need to do at that time. So you're blowing away a ton of time looking for this, then you have to click on it, it loads, and you use some more stuff. So the idea of the super app super app functionality is like you're in your contact list and you want to get some more information about some item in your contact list. When you click on the contact, now you get a list of items that other applications have thrown in there. So what I'm saying is that you have applications that are providing functionality on demand that the user is looking for. Okay, so this goes to the technical point, which is that this idea of super apps is really more about an evolution of the platform itself. That's where RIM started with it, was like a design pattern, as Mike says. So how that ties back into marketing is when you do all this stuff, you get a greater stickiness and user experience. And then RIM, of course, appreciates that you're moving forward with their platform initiatives and is willing to do a whole bunch of stuff like co-marketing and you know, really helpful things to help expose your app a little bit better to the community. So without the super app experience, I really don't think we could have been where we are today. We have 7.2 million users. You know, the launch of App World certainly was a huge part of that. So it's all part of the big picture, and I think I'll leave it at that and hand it over to you.
Sounds good. From our perspective, it's all about user experience. I mean, you got to recognize the particular niche we take care of in App World is news. It's content syndication, and by the way, most people that are buying BlackBerries are using it to read a lot of content. You know, it's BBM, it's email, it's text messages. So there's a very, you know, there's almost a preset set of steps that a user is expecting to go through when they see this content. There's certain things that they are expecting to be able to do with that. From our perspective, one of the biggest jumps we made was integrating push into all of our applications. So I don't know what the exact numbers are, but we're probably one of the biggest users of the BlackBerry push service of any app developer, in part because people are expecting that sort of experience. The rest of their native applications are like this, and why wouldn't their third-party applications be that way? So for us, you know, it's really important from that perspective. And you know, there are two other real important reasons we've gotten behind the super app concept. One, I think, is important to RIM. I think that's differentiating applications versus other platforms. You don't have a lot of applications that are just because applications, or they don't have a very long shelf life. And I think from our perspective, we're seeing real great quality in the App World store. So when we put applications like Business Week into the store, we know that there aren't a lot of just because applications out there. That you're also seeing other great content brands with great content experiences. And from our perspective, we're constantly bringing new customers in. And this is a strong benefit to BlackBerry in that there are some developers that are building real top-level experiences, you know, real top-shelf stuff. And so that really keeps great quality overall in a customer experience. So when the perception is pinged out there, you've got people that can tell really great stories about their experience of getting on the BlackBerry platform. So I think that's what Super Apps has done for us as a business. It's helped to clear that from a marketing perspective and show great quality versus some of the other applications, allowing for some great differentiation.
Speaking of top shelf apps, why don't you talk about your application and some of the super app stuff you've done?
So for Foursquare, from the beginning, we always wanted, you know, tight integration with the device, because as a BlackBerry developer, but also as a BlackBerry user and fan, you know, it was like, well, if I see this venue or my friend check in and so on, I want to be able to quickly copy this venue detail and send it to a friend as an email or a text. And this was before the concept of super apps became officially defined. And I think super apps definitely guides the narrative as to the direction that RIM wants to go with, like tighter integration into the device, not just accessing contacts or invoking email or anything like that. So for us, push was a big win. It allowed for users to come back into the application, but also not just advertising, hey, you should come back into the application. It was actually, hey, Jeff checked in at Joe's bar, and then you click, you know, the load Foursquare button, and you can get back in, and you can see what your other friends are up to, or you can, you know, check in from there. But also, let's say with BBM integration and going back to push, RIM does a really good job of offering the tools to developers, but also stepping back and allowing developers to decide how to offer the final solution in terms of, you know, the UI layout for that push notification or something else like that. So they do offer a lot of flexibility that you don't see on a whole bunch of other client types or carriers.
Good, thanks. Now, Andy, just to put you on the spot a little bit as well, obviously you guys are new to the platform, almost brand spanking new. Yeah. And you've already got some of the super app features we saw in the video to be able to make phone calls directly and some of those pieces. Maybe just talk about kind of how you got to that evolution as well and your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it's everything is very new, as you said, and we haven't really seen Wikitube live yet and being used by the RIM community. But the super apps concept obviously is very exciting for us because it gives us the ability to launch Wikitude and the AR view from multiple places on the device. So instead of having the standalone Wikitude application just sit there on the device, we can offer an AR view within BlackBerry Messenger. We can offer it in the Maps view on BlackBerry Maps, etc. So for us, that basically means that we can introduce Wikitude to the consumer and to the user in many different ways. And as you mentioned, obviously Wikitude is all around points of interest. As a matter of fact, we have about 150 million POIs now aggregated in our ecosystem. So all of these POIs consist of places that have URLs, that have email addresses, that have telephone numbers, and those sorts of things. So obviously, you don't want to detour to access a website or anything like that. You can just obviously click on the URL and the browser will be launched, that sort of thing. And then unified search is another area that is really important for us because when you have that large of a volume of POIs, you want to quickly be able to find what you're looking for. And if you can go through unified search and look for Thai restaurants, for example, then you can immediately see the content that is coming from Wikitude there, and then you can access Wikitude from there once again. So it's all about as said many times over, it's all about integrating and making it a more seamless experience for the user. And we're very excited to see this rolled out soon. We haven't made that experience yet, but I have no doubt that it will be well received.
Awesome. Okay, questions? Yes, go ahead.
I like the idea of super apps as a guiding principle for developers for creating their apps, but marketing what was brought up a couple of times. And I do find that in a lot of pitches I get, super apps are kind of flown around as just an empty buzzword. I'm a super app, I'm a super app. Everybody's a super app. It kind of loses meaning. Is there any way to kind of like lock down which apps actually are super apps and leverage these things? Will RIM ever put like a super app seal of approval on these things?
So that's a good question. Not right now. It's not something that we plan on doing right now. I think we're more trying to encourage the community to use it as a framework to say why they are. So instead of just saying, I'm a super app, Pete or Peter or Marlon can say, here are the things about our app that really embody those capabilities. And I think what you'll start to see maybe is a little bit more kind of finer messaging around kind of delineating exactly what aspects might actually turn an application into a super app. And actually even taking it that much further into that real kind of almost true design pattern mentality, so it becomes really kind of crisp. Because right now, as you can say, it's a little loose, right? It's like be social.
Yeah,
Simon. What does that mean?
Simon, I think you're right in the sense, like whenever we introduce ourselves as a super app, the first thing that we do is talk to the specific points, and that's ultimately I think what's important to the user as well. So it's a marketing tool in the sense that it opens up a discussion for the differentiators. Personally, like if I see super app, the first thing I want to know is why. So in that sense, it's a good tool.
I do like this idea that it kind of embodies a design philosophy, because we're also attracting a lot of developers to our platform that have been building apps on other platforms where they don't have that level of integration available. So it's almost like they need to understand that we think about things differently on the platform. At least the kind of apps that we truly believe are going to differentiate, reach the largest audience and be able to retain that audience and keep them coming back to the app. So having that out there as kind of a design philosophy to think about your app differently and how you engage with your users, I think is crucial. And whether you take advantage of 1 or 10 super app principles, it really depends on what you're trying to do. But knowing that we just fundamentally think differently about how deeply we want third parties to integrate with our platform is kind of a really important message for our developers to hear, especially if they've been on other platforms where that's just not
part of the equation. Alex, you had a comment? Or?
Yeah, I think, we want to stay away from making a checkbox where we say here are the features and if you check all these super app. One that kills the ability for developers and the market to bring functionality that we probably haven't thought about. Our job is to open up the platform and then allow that creativity that's out there to really bring other aspects that we might not have seen super, like what points done with the tablet. Prime example. Wow, that's amazing. I never would have thought that. But really, where I look at super apps is not about what APIs they're using. It's how does an application inject value into the everyday use of that application into end consumers' life. So how many facets are they adding value to? So are they helping them accountable? Are they helping save time? That's what really makes a super app, and that's really hard to define. But when you see it, you know all the way, right away. Very
Like 5-day weather forecast showing up in your calendar from AccuWeather.
Exactly. That
was awesome. Brilliant. Go ahead, Ron.
How do we make sure every app's a super app?
Yes.
No, I'm saying, I know, okay, the hardcore developers, people who have earned their own, school knocks, okay, they know, okay, this is how we do push APIs, this is how we do messageless integration, this is how we keep the app running in the background, and as they learn more and more. But now that you're getting more and more developers, how do we make sure that same BlackBerry experience keeps along in all the apps?
Yeah, so there's a variety of kind of tactics we're taking. We're more of the encouragement type of platform than the big stick type of platform. That's probably the nice way of saying that. And so in the encouragement platform, we run things like Super App Developer Challenge last year to create millions of dollars in prizing that we can offer to developers to say, hey, if you create a super app or take your existing app and extend it with super app features, then we want to recognize you. So there's a lot of things that we're doing in that front. I think, to what Peter said, we're doing a lot of co-marketing and advertising around the applications that have embodied that as well, and so that's another kind of encouragement that we can use for vendors to pick up the super app features. I think the other side is that we need to start introducing that dialogue around super apps earlier in their development cycle. A lot of guys, and maybe Pete mentioned that, he's like, they built the app and then he's a user and he's like, oh, I'm using it, and I'm like, oh, I want to share my location, right? Or I want to copy that and send it over email. So there's you almost kind of get to evolve into these things as you become a user of the application more so, because it's not like a check kind of box. It's more of like, how do I evolve the existing kind of app experience?
That's a follow-up question. Is there any goal to kind of move it into some sort of wizard? Say you're a new developer, you want to start developing for the platform. First things first, you need to develop. You choose your developing platform. From there, sign you up for all of the API services that you need, your code signing keys, your app vendor account, all the things to kind of take you through the flow. Okay, this is how you become a BlackBerry developer. It's kind of done in for example, the IDE will have the getting started page, and there's a different getting started page. It's just one place is walk you through the process of becoming the best BlackBerry developer.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's one of the things we're actually spending a lot of time thinking about right now is the overall developer experience at RIM. In a very kind way, what's exposed to our developer community is a very clear delineation of how it works inside our company. Like the code signing system is separate from everybody else, and so it is separate.
The bug registration and
right. And so there's a lot of BlackBerry ID is going to bring a huge amount of kind of single sign-on capabilities to bring all of those systems together. But that has to be integrated all the way through, right? So when you go to the website, it's easy to get the tools. It's easy to make the decision around what tools. It's easy to get the tools. It's easy to install the tools. Once you have the tools, it's easy to build an app. Once you have that, it's easy to submit the app to App World, set up an account, get your keys. There's a huge amount of work going on right now to really refine that, and I think we'll have some pretty exciting things to talk about at our developer conference this fall.
You should give out badges.
Should give out badges.
There you go. So, you win an award afterwards. Your developer has completed the BlackBerry on-ramp challenge.
From the developer's perspective, what stuff like push and also what the recent BBM API, I think RIM's been really good at guiding the developer with here's the white paper for a quick overview, here's the technical doc, and here's example tutorial, what code that you can actually run that's well documented that you can use. So our ability to develop was tighter development cycle and all that stuff, and we were able to actually find examples without having to bother RIM with emailing engineers or anything and waiting for follow-up, of which they were always really available and helpful, but the out-of-the-box solution for the new super app tools were really great.
Good.
The other point I was going to make, and it's probably a good lead into our last topic section, is that I think there's a recognition that we don't need every app to be a super app, at least initially as it's brought into the platform. When you think about what we're doing with the Android player, there are a lot of applications, we demoed a bunch of them on stage, where we took that code without any access to the source, packaged or bundled, and it runs fine on the device. And for certain applications, that may be just fine. And depending on the developer and the motivation, why they're building apps and their monetization strategy, that may work for them. But so we don't want it to be a kind of barrier. We want those developers to be able to take the assets, especially assets they've already built up, and easily bring them to the platform and get them up. But we do want to be there to say, you know what, okay, now you've started to get what's different about our platform, what's unique, how you can differentiate, how you can be more engaged and more deeply integrated to track your user base. And for those guys, we want to make it really easy for them to take those next steps. But if you're building a standalone game that it kind of offers a little distraction and some fun, you can jump into and play it and move away from.
You're about to get a ton of new developers. That's essentially what you're bracing for. I'm just curious so there is some sort of strategy to onboard. You're going to get a bunch of Android developers who come in, never heard of BlackBerry APIs, never heard of, another couple more C++ developers, also same story.
Yeah, we've just gone through the experience with a whole bunch of new Adobe Air and Flash developers, and so we've learned a lot over the last 6 months, I can say very definitively.
WebWorks just didn't have as many developers who are trying to make apps in WebWorks.
Correct, and mainly because it was web developers are notoriously hard to pin down, right? It's not like Adobe has a very logical connection to their community, and there's an established organization around that. There's user groups. I mean, it's actually the breadth of their kind of community is and the establishment and kind of functional nature of it is really actually quite impressive. And even more impressive the more I actually get to know it. And you can say the same thing for some of the other technologies. Java, again, there's a logical starting point with Sun and Oracle and so on, right? But web, because it's so very open and it attracts a certain kind of developer as well that appreciates that, they move in almost pockets. That's probably the best way to speak about it instead of herds. And so you got to go to each of the pockets. And so that's why we're working with vendors like Dojo, jQuery, Sencha, and others, because they have their own pockets. PhoneGap, they have their own pockets to get the word out about WebWorks. But yeah, because you can't mobilize the whole community at once, it's more of a slow burn. And it's amazing already what we've seen with people who are trying the WebWorks platform on the playbook. Once they get there, they're like, I can't imagine this not being here. I can't imagine not using this. I can't imagine any other way of developing. But we got to get them into the sheet. But I mean, you did a wonderful segue to Android, and we don't have a ton of time left. So how do I package my app? How is that going to work?
Okay, so I mean, the short answer is we're going to be providing an extension to the Android development toolkit where it makes it very easy for you to take your source and in the most basic case, just repackage and have it signed, and then deploy and publish into App World. In cases where there's recompilation involved, there may be some API that you need to adjust or make changes to. We're seeing a very high run rate right now in terms of looking at the Android catalog and being able to bring applications across without making any changes. But there are certain scenarios where you will need to make changes. So we intend to take the developer through that process and make it as seamless as possible. So everything from compile, sign, repackage, and publish on App World.
Good.
So that toolkit will be available in the
wonderful. So just maybe some other
summer
as the official wording. Summer does officially extend until September. So the other things that's worth noting about the Android player is the intent is that it is standalone, but we'll have access into low-level pieces on the platform. So it'll obviously play audio, which we saw. It'll have access to networking, which we saw. But we won't allow native applications built on the Android platform to run on the playbook. So anything built in the NDK, the Android NDK, won't come over to the playbook. And the expectation is the developers who are building using the NDK today would then just flop over and use our NDK because of the POSIX compatibility and ease of capability of porting that over, and a desire at some level to have that kind of control and flexibility around how that works today.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the developer is working at that layer, whether they're working in Android or working in iOS or built native games or native applications for Linux or PC, is they will find a huge degree of compatibility with the standard Unix APIs that we're providing. And working with meta platforms like we saw Unity on stage with us, a lot of these, especially game developers, are already building on top of frameworks, which we are working with to get ported over. So we'll make it very easy for you to take your native code base and bring it over and get it up on the platform. And if you want kind of proof point for that, you can go check out the native SDK pod at the Developer Lounge in the showcase. And we have one of our guys who port Quake 3 in about a weekend and a couple of extra days. And
there's multiplayer going on that too.
Yeah, multiplayer.